JJ, the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. So let's talk about the SALT limitation of $10,000. Now this stands for state and local taxes. We're talking about a deduction on the individual tax return that you would see on Schedule A, which is where the itemized deductions are indicated. Now, 90% of Americans are not itemizing their deductions because the standard deduction is higher. I'll give you some information, a link to the IRS website that talks about that. It's not really the key part of this video, but I wanted you to know that this is I'm kind of putting a circle around, well, what is the topic that we're talking about? So when we're talking about this limitation, it's $10,000. And with that, this is including real estate taxes and state income taxes or other state level taxes. If you don't have a state that has income taxes and maybe your real estate taxes are low, there is an either or on that aspect where you can then include your sales tax that you would pay in that state. Again, I'm going to give you a link to the information directly that talks about that aspect, but that limitation is still in play for 2021. There was hope that in the Build Back Better bill that passed the House, not the Senate, didn't become law, that there would be an increase to this limitation. That never came into play. The other thing I want you to note is that very recently, and I'll give you a link to the article where the AICPA does a recap of this, but there were 4 states that went and challenged that this cap, this limitation on these state level taxes is unconstitutional. And the court found that it is constitutional, so it is sticking. Now, for those of you that are in states where they've created what's called a workaround, where if you have a business that is an S corp or a partnership that normally doesn't have a tax at its level, at the entity level, then states have some put together, in essence, this workaround, implemented a tax at the entity level, and therefore then the tax on the income from an S corp or a partnership wouldn't be then taxable down at the individual level at the state level. The only reason I'm bringing that up is that that doesn't have anything to do with the feds, okay? That doesn't have anything to do with the feds. You're still going to pay tax on that net income from an S corp or a partnership. That would be at the state level. So you want to get with your tax pro, see if that's something that you would want to look at, potentially if your state has this. So with the SALT limitation, we may see it come into play in a future bill. It definitely is something that's been talked about for years and years since it went into the cap in 2018. But for now, we're still stuck with it. And that's one of the reasons that 90% of Americans aren't itemizing their deductions, because state and local taxes are limited to the $10,000. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. I'd love it if you'd subscribe, and then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. Have a great one.
CPA, CPA,